I hope you're still all with us and you're still very much inspired. I think there was a fantastic summary of yesterday's day, and I'm keeping in mind that we have time, money, collaboration, and I think there was a fourth one that I can't remember, that I wrote it down, but I can't remember it. But I think this is what we will be discussing today in these next 3 sessions, which are all about action. So we have identified the obstacles, we have identified how we can measure, we can identify what we need to do, but let's put it in place, because I think, as Magda said, and Montse and the previous panel, we have to make them into actions that will drive innovation, that will shape the life sciences that we want for all of us, for you. So I would like to introduce Thomas, my co-moderator for the next 3 rounds of discussion. Welcome, Thomas.
Welcome, welcome. Oh,
Good.
My mic is already on. Thank you. Thank you, Stami. So during the last day, I've heard so much talk about the obstacles and talk about let's say, things that we should change. And now, for a bit of a change of attitude, let's concentrate on the vision, on the point in the future that we would like to achieve. So the vision of the perfect European healthcare and life science system. And we should, in the next stages, we should also gather all your inputs, but I would like you to think about such elements of this bright, super future for European life science. And just for the warm-up, I have like 3 examples what we can envision. So for me, it would be like most drugs registered and introduced into market are coming from Europe. This is one example. The second one would be like that the biggest deals, like the blockbuster deals, are done in Europe by European companies. Probably right now it's not the case. But this is my vision of the perfect future for the life science in Europe. And we also have like major clusters in the world. Right now, probably the major cluster is Boston, but I imagine that we can have such at least one cluster in Europe. And I would like you to think about the other parts of this vision. We will come back to it a bit later.
Exactly. And we want these sessions to be interactive, so we will be asking you questions through the QR code that you'll be screening or you have already on your phones. But we want this to be interactive, as I said, so please ask questions, and we will be asking questions to you. So this is a 2-way dialogue, because this is the only way forward. So we are here to discuss strategies for effective collaboration and how we can actually put it on action. Our objective from Casimir is to actually inspire all of you and have concrete solutions or actions by the end. So starting up with the first round, which is focusing on scaling innovation. I know that we've talked a lot about yesterday on how to actually scale innovation, the scale up and startup strategies coming out from the European Commission probably next week. We all have companies, SMEs. We saw that the medtech innovators are the ones that we think that can deliver the most in the next 5 years. So let's discuss about how we can actually help them scale up. So we have with us Monica Frenzel from the French National Research Agency. Hi, Monica, you're there. Monica represents ANI.
Big applause for the Monica.
Great. So Monica represents ANR in the European Partnership for Personalised Medicine, EP-PERMED, and the International Consortium for Personalised Medicine. And she's coordinating the actions on personalised medicine and funding and support. So I'm highlighting that because we will be talking on that. Angelo Pezzulo from the Università Catholic del Sacro Cuore. My Italian is really shocking. I've done 2 years.
Welcome, Angelo.
So, again, Angelo is coordinating a team on personalized prevention roadmaps for the future healthcare. So roadmaps, big word. And last but not least, Magdalena. So Madalena has the important role to coordinating national contact points across 12 academic research institutions in Poland. So really different perspectives, a panel of great minds, and what we have to do is we have to identify the research innovation areas with the highest potential to impact European healthcare. So we've been talking about scaling up. However, scaling up referred to both entrepreneurship, because we want the mindset of entrepreneurs to change in order to think about the bigger picture. But we're talking about, and of course, creating the new unicorn, if we can, in Europe, in biotech, or healthcare, I should say, or health innovation. But we're talking about scaling up. Scaling up has the potential of scaling up healthcare systems in order to be able to actually adopt and deploy these innovations into for our patients. So there's two aspects of scaling up. But to start, I think we will start with Monica, because as we know, Europe is lagging in both, in scaling up innovation, scaling up healthcare systems, as we saw. So what do you think it's the most important factors to consider when we need to scale up both SMEs or startups and healthcare systems, especially when we're talking with specifically to personalized medicine?
Before Monica, you start, I would like us to fire up the Mentimentor so that we could also provide the input during the session.
Good. Yes, you're right, Thomas.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for the invitation. Looking forward to the discussions. Well, I think, especially when looking at personalized medicine, there are different aspects that we have to consider. It's technology development, so it's a question on devices, drug development, understanding of diseases. So I think there is an aspect that is all around where we find diagnostics, a lot of SMEs or new companies coming up, especially for biomarkers helping us to make healthcare more personalized, more efficient, more targeted. And then I think there's all about methodology that is changing. Also, when we think about prevention, I think, in personalized medicine, but also about treatment strategies, also diagnostics. So it is changing something for a clinical setting, for how healthcare is provided, how the role even of the patient, the general practitioner. So there's a lot of changes that needs to be considered. So it is indeed a system that needs to be connected from the very start. So I think this is what we try to do in the European Partnership for Personalized Medicine, to connect through the partnership, the research, the development phase with the innovation phase, and the implementation phase. I think this is really important to do this from the very beginning, meaning when we are having research projects funded, that we ask them to be from the very start multidisciplinary, to work cross-border, because Europe is very small. So we talk about market, question of having, well, also enough data sets. There was a lot spoken about the data, European data space. So I think we have to start at the research already to support researchers to make research that matters, that to consider also the question of implementation research from the very start. So this is what we try from the very beginning to focus and to push. And I think innovation starts there already. And then, of course, to help the researchers to get the reflection about innovation. We discussed it in the last conference from EP Permit, not every researcher needs to be a superhero, so to do everything. But if you create multidisciplinary groups with experts from the different fields, that can make implementation research, for example. We can have the researchers being a researcher. We can support them to be entrepreneurs if they wish to, or to have maybe a university environment that supports this aspect to help scaling up. And then if we are having the innovation part, to help them to understand how it's working. So for example, the EP Permit, we have a fast track or a venture creation, trying to help them to get education and training to understand how I get an entrepreneur, but also maybe to make first validation steps. This is where we can support them. And then maybe to prepare through communication and education and however we can, the implementation pathway. So to increase the knowledge about new solutions, why it is important, and I think I should stop here, right? If not, I'm talking too long.
I think it's great input. Could you provide us, if you have such examples of initiatives that succeeded?
I think on different levels we try to communicate with the research communities, but also to discuss with healthcare systems. What I like also in EP Permit is we discuss with regions. Of course, we have the policymakers there, also the funders, the ministries. So we see different levels. From the research perspective, we had some very nice examples. For example, I think it was a Swedish company that started a diagnostic tool, and they started with a really harmonized data set from their region. And they are installed now, and they are able to integrate new data sets to see if their device is being able to be implemented more widely. Because the problem with personalized medicine, or in general, with medicine that is more targeted, it depends on what data set you, of course, integrate. And we don't speak yet about women, men, children, elderly, but generally also genomics background is really important. And I think that helped them to support them. By the way, also, I think they were researchers, and in their clinic or in their research setting, they have, when they start to have an entrepreneuria, they have a share of the patent. So make them participating actively, and it's a part of their work, and it remains a part of them. So I think that was really motivating for them. When it comes more for the healthcare system, for example, a technology might be too complex, or think if you're thinking about, you develop a new marker. Think about how this marker could be integrated in a clinical setting. Maybe you need a very sophisticated technology to identify the marker, but then try to pass to a technology that is implementable for detection in a clinical setting. So for example, a laser. So maybe you need a high sophisticated microscope to find a marker, but then translate it into a technique that can be easily implemented in a clinical setting. Try to develop centralized clinics that can have a technology installed, maybe have also specific boards to take decisions, and then connect different centers of the region to this clinical center. So data sampling is at the place where the patient is, treatment is where the patient is, but samples are provided to one specific center. And I think here policy is very important in the ministry, because then making these parts growing bigger, integrating not only a region or a hospital, but a region and then a country. Here we need then the policy, the ministries to support this financially, but also education and training and bringing them together. So I think these are two examples, and I have some more, but I think this is one for the more diagnostic part and SME part, and one for healthcare systems.
Okay, so I understand that you propose starting with one leading project and then scale it up to the national level, and probably even later European one. Thank you very much. So I think that we can move to our next panelist, Angelo. Integrating multi-omics data is absolutely hard task, and it can be challenging, but it also can give us ways to integrate it into prevention. So how challenging is that, and how can we cope with it?
Well, it is very challenging indeed, and I think that in PROFET, which is a coordinating and support action for the International Consortium of Personalized Medicine, which is tasked to develop a strategic and research agenda for the implementation of personalized prevention in Europe, we are very much concerned with these challenges. And but I think we need to make a couple of premises or caveats before diving deep into this topic, because both prevention and personalization are two concepts that have their elusiveness, okay? And so prevention, prevention is traditionally seen in medicine and public health as in levels, like primary, secondary, tertiary prevention. And these are distinguished based on their target. Their target and primary, it is to healthy individuals. Secondary prevention is to people that are asymptomatic, and with the premise that if you diagnose somebody early and treat it early, then you will that person will be better than if it is treated later. That it is not always the case, as we know. And then tertiary prevention that has the target of diseased individuals. There is one problem that all medical intervention can be seen, can be categorized and in these three levels. And so there are blurred boundaries between prevention and medicine, and prevention can be seen more as a way of categorizing medical and public health intervention than a discipline itself. But most people see prevention about primary and secondary prevention, so let's focus on that, and also personalization that can be seen also as a differentiating the treatment based on risk factors, but this is also what all physicians do in their practice, all good physicians do in their practice. So the first challenge that we really had in Prophet was to defining personalized prevention, okay? And we base our definition on the European Parliament definition of 2015 that was endorsed also by the International Consortium for Personalized Medicine, and that we defined in the first consortium meeting, personalized prevention aims to prevent onset, progression, and recurrence of diseases through the adoption of targeted interventions that consider the biological information, environmental and behavioral characteristics, socioeconomic and cultural context of individuals. So coming to your question and of the integration of omics and behavioral and environmental data to have prevention, it is challenging. For example, I've seen this Nature Medicine paper of 2025 by Argentieri and colleagues, a group from Oxford that has estimated that the contribution of the exposome, which is the sum of all the exposure that we have in our life, and the genome, okay? And of course, they have seen that the contribution to all-cause mortality and aging is bigger for the exposome than the genome, okay? But in general, there is a race today for the integration of omics, environmental, behavioral data, but the fruits have been few at the moment. But why? And many have cited the ideas why this has been lack of infrastructure, lack of common regulation, lack of political will. I mean, these are things that we have listened to all time during this conference, and these are all true. I mean, in our strategic document, we cite them all. We actually gathered some of the best experts in Europe to elaborate on these challenges. And it's true that the interoperability of data, especially when you are gathering data that are different, such omics, multi-omics like proteomics, genomics, and so on. But there are some initiatives that are good in this sense, like HL7 FIRE, OMOP, and in general the European Health Data Space. And also when we say regulation, EU regulation, even when it's there is differences in the interpretation. No? The GDPR, for example, is a common regulation, but very much interpreted differently in different countries. I come from a country, Italy, where the GDPR is interpreted in a very strict way, although they are improving all these things. However, if I have to say one thing, why this is difficult, and even if we have the infrastructure, the common regulation, the political will, I think that there is not convincing evidence yet. So we need more for this kind of integration for prevention. We need more research. We need carefully designed prospective studies with causality in mind, not only prediction, because prediction without an idea of changing the course of action is useless, mostly useless. And these studies have to be vetted through the highest evaluation standards. So at the moment, the best options that we have for prevention are still the ones that are designed by public health many years ago. The WHO best buys in 2015 that have been recently reviewed by a group of European researchers in the Lancet Regional Health Europe. They have it reviewed, classified in quick buys. So the best options to deliver deliver results within 5 years political mandates. So if you ask me what action we need to do now, we need to focus on what we know it works and do more research.
One very simple question. Let's believe that your project will succeed, or we will introduce such a tool combining omics data and personalized prevention. What will change in Europe? In a very short words, like 2 sentences.
I mean, prevention. We know that most of the chronic disease burden is preventable. Okay, we know that 70%, up to 70% in the estimation of the chronic disease burden is preventable, and so we can deliver on a high scale of productivity and health and happiness in a way, no? Because I think health is a major determinant of happiness. We can deliver to that, but till now we have also to be realistic and saying that what healthcare services are doing right now for prevention is little. I mean, it's just vaccination, surveillance, screening. The first two are more interested with the communicable diseases, with some exceptions, and the other two is highly questioned in the scientific debates. Its value, at least beyond the traditional cancer screening, and so we have to be realistic. The potential is very high, but the stratified healthcare services as they are now, they won't deliver much. Okay.
Thank you, Angelo.
So just to recap, we need multidisciplinary teams from early on. This is my understanding. We need good data. We have the opportunity to collect complex data and implement it in complex and very different healthcare settings, which when we're talking about roadmaps for something specifically like personalized medicine is complex. But in order to do that, because that is the need, we have to take one step back and go back to the research industry, or the research where it sort of all starts. And I know that after the Draghi report, we in Europe, we're lacking transferable research. We know that we're lagging behind. We're lagging behind the US and China. We have to create more spin-offs. We have to support the startups to continue. And a major role in that is the excellence technology transfer from industry, from academia to industry. And this is where the national contact points are actually coming into play. Magdalena, you have a lot of information and a lot of good examples and a lot of knowledge on this, since you're coordinating the whole network in Poland. How can we do it better? Because there is a need that we have to do it better now. How can we do it better? How can the stakeholders support this, especially clusters, because I'm coming from the clusters view, and how can we achieve it?
Okay, thank you for this question. So first, the diagnosis from my side. Certainly, Europe has no problem with scientific excellence. I mean, Europe as a whole, because of course there are some slightly weaker players in Europe, but we have in place the widening portfolio with a very rich range of instruments, and it's actually working really well. So I think we can all agree that our researchers and our universities are really world class. And of course, the real challenge is to turn all this excellent research into solutions that can reach the end user, the patients, the citizens. And of course, on this road, we have to omit the valley of death, the famous valley of death, the gap between research and implementation. And in my opinion, the first reason of these difficulties that we have now with bridging this gap is fragmentation. It's fragmentation of tools on the very central European level, because first we have Horizon Europe for research and innovation building, with the Klaster 1, of course, health. But Horizon Europe itself is already a very complex system of instruments and a very difficult one especially for newcomers. Then we have EU for healthcare systems, as you all perfectly know. And there is, for example, Digital Europe for digital tools and infrastructure, a completely different program, to quote only 3 of them. And of course, also NCP network is not the only network in every country which is supposed to deal with all this, but I will elaborate on that a bit later. Then all these programs quite often operate in silos. There are no clear paths between them. And of course, as NCPs, we are supposed to deliver information about all of them. Even if we are focused on Horizon Europe, we are supposed to to say our customers to go to another NCPs who deal, for example, with Digital Europe, but still it doesn't work as a coherent system. Then a second reason. It was already said before, but that's the subject of the conference. Health projects have their own difficulties. They are somehow not typical, not very representative for grants under Horizon Europe, for example, because they are rather slow. They are heavily regulated. And often don't offer very fast returns. So this may scare off private investors. I think that we can observe it quite often. So we need stronger public support and smarter risk-sharing instruments. And of course, another issue is weak tech transfer. And this, especially in widening countries, I would say. Many research teams still tend to focus on publications, not practical application. And tech transfer offices need to be better funded and be more proactive, in my opinion. So now what has to be changed? We should, first of all, it's a very basic thing, promote interdisciplinary teams. But from my experience, at least in Poland, it is not really done in a sufficient way. We, as NCPs, often repeat to our customers that they should take on board colleagues from different types of organizations. Those from academia should take on board those from enterprises and from the third sector. In the health sector, there are of course some specific groups of organizations that should be taken in consideration. So this is very important, and it pays off on many levels. Then, of course, there should be created an innovation ecosystem in health. A system that would support the whole life cycle of an idea, right? From basic science through validation and testing to adoption in healthcare practice. We should also align EU funding with national priorities, and it is a big challenge from the Polish perspective, I must admit. I think every Polish agency which deals with the national funding, there is still a lot to do. And of course, when we analyze the Horizon data, we can see that in the countries which have done so, the results are very obviously better. The results measured, of course, in terms of the funding gained from Horizon Europe. Then we should support very much initiatives like public-private initiatives like European partnerships under Horizon Europe, and not only under Horizon Europe, but of course I am advocate of Horizon Europe, so I will obviously focus on that. And let's stop thinking on isolated programs. It is, as I have just said, we have a duty. It's not a recommendation of the European Commission; it's a duty. We have to embrace somehow all the programs in a done area on the central level, and we have to advise our customers on that, how it works, explain how they interact between them, what's the logic behind it, behind the system. But still, you know, it's a reaction. It's not. It's a reaction to a system which is not coherent, because still it is very discouraging from the perspective of a potential applicant. And of course, unfortunately, it is not compulsory to come and consult NCPs. It is only an opportunity. One may benefit from that or not, and also our advice is not, there's no duty to use our advice. So it's not a good, coherent, and user-friendly system. So I think that would be my answer to that question.
Okay, so very comprehensive description. I'm taking from this that obviously we need to actually support I have to comment that the person who scribes is doing a wonderful job. So that's fantastic to see. So well done, summarizing what we have discussed so far. We have to find a way, and we need to find a way, I should say, to actually teach the ecosystem across the board to take more risks. We have to re-educate ourselves in order to understand that failing is part of the process. And I think perhaps this is why it's making us lagging behind. And this is a comment to all of you, because I would like to hear your views later on as well. How do we do it? How do we teach? As clusters, we try to educate with concrete actions and capacity building activities, our startups, that you have to, in order to succeed, you have to fail, and that's okay, in order to progress. However, in Europe, you have to find money to be able to do the exercise and take the risk. How do we re-educate everyone, and some of the actions that probably in your ecosystems have worked so far as we're doing sharing? So I will start from Monica and go down.
It's a very important question. And again, I would say we have to start at the beginning, starting with the research also to share what was not working. So because I think we are pushed from the very beginning to, we are judged as a researcher. I was a researcher before working at the French National Research Agency. We are judged on publications, and publications are results that you can sell, results that are leading to new diagnostics. But I think what is making everything, the whole system, more efficient is sharing also what is not working, and difficulties. And this is from research towards innovation. So what are the best processes for starting an SME startup, good mechanisms, to understand how the market is working, how you make an analysis, but also until the implementation question, what is working, what is not working, what are maybe hurdles. We will, for sure, and I think this is not what Europe has to try to harmonize healthcare systems, but to understand the differences and to see how we can learn, nevertheless, from one example to the other. So I would really say we start from the beginning and we allow error in, it's not even an error, it's simply things do not work or depend really on the system. But if we are not providing an environment where we are allowed to share what is not working, then we will slow down the process from the very beginning until the end. So I think really sharing, giving everyone a trustful environment where people share also what is not working, this will move the entire system faster from research over innovation towards implementation.
Yeah, I echo what Monica was saying. I mean, this is very important for researchers, and I mean, risk aversion is an epidemic all around the society. It's not only in research, in my opinion. It's not so easy to answer to your question, and but I think that's something that we can concretely do in a very short time frame is to make the data more fair, more open. Because I mean, if you even fail in your research project, you still have gathered this data that can be reanalyzed, can be left it to other people that might gain better insights. You can meta-analyze research from multiple projects and arrive to a conclusion that is very different from the first one. And so I think that this is one of the things that are most important, and also how we incentivize research, as Monica was saying. I mean, we are incentivized, at least I talk about, I'm a researcher, from the number of publication in prestigious venues and citation that we gather. But I think that there are many dimensions for research impact, and we should be aware of them, incentivize them, and also, as I said, for me, openness and reproducibility of your research is the most important way of you know, is a guarantee to all the other people that are reading them that you have done it all in a transparent way and rigorous way.
Well, I'm smiling a bit because I was going also to start with the publications issue, but I will omit that. Well, Horizon Europe is all about risks. It's all about taking risks because it is very much built in the program. You know, the success rates in Horizon are famous to be very low. We know that the average success rate in Horizon Europe is is about 20%. It's not much. It means that a big majority of applications fail. And that's the fact. I mean, it varies from one element of Horizon to another, but still this level is very low. So, this risk-taking starts, on the base in this case. And the first challenge is for research institutions and enterprises, of course, is to understand that it is, a worth taking exercise. It's a slogan, but of course, best things, are created in difficult circumstances very often. So this risk is already there from the very beginning, and I think the acceptance of this fact must simply be there. I hope it will be now maybe more analyzed, more present in a public debate, because the interim evaluation results of Horizon Europe has just been published in late April. Of course, as always in such cases, some measures are immediately put in place in order to boost some things and to mitigate some others. And exactly there is a lot of talking about the success rate. How to deal with that issue, and I hope that this focus on success rates will now change a bit the mindset in the research world.
I think you summarized some important messages there, but I think in order to focus and support scaling up, we need to take into consideration the elements that you said. So it's not just about getting the funding, but it's about implementing or thinking really early on all the requirements that we need in order to implement it and deploy it into healthcare system. And then that way we can have incentives from VCs, from the Commission, from the member states, in order to scale up these productions, have new production lines in Europe, attract more talent, and therefore scaling up innovation as a whole. We have a question for all of you, so I hope you're all with us. If you have already scanned the QR code, if we can see the first question, if possible. It's coming. We want to see where you think that which biosciences subsector has the greatest potential for scale up in the next 5 years. I think that's the first question. Excellent. So which biosciences subsector has the greatest potential for scale up in the next 5 years in your region? And please let us know which region you are from, so we can actually see who we have with us.
This is the question both for the audience and also for our panelists.
That's right.
So let's maybe give a little bit time to the audience to use the Mentimeter and to answer the question. And maybe, Angelo, what are 2 or 3 areas, research and innovation areas that could change the future of Europe?
I mean,
In life
can
science,
talk,
of course.
I mean, I can talk about personalized prevention. That it's the, let's say, the work that we have been doing, because I mean, we have this consortium that is very big and has 18 partners in 12 European countries, plus the UK, with very different expertise. Have screened the landscape, okay, of course, biobanks, exposome networks, digital health projects, and this was called the mapping phase, was the starting phase. And we have gathered information about many approaches that are promising. I think, for example, breast cancer screening, which is now can be tailored by the polygenic risk. So the polygenic risk score is the summation of all your variation in your gene. So small variation in your gene can predispose you, make you more susceptible to one disease or another. These are small variations, but the sum of them can really change your risk in specific diseases. Breast cancer is one of the examples, and moreover, you can add to this the risk factors, the environmental risk factors, and you can use this to improve the benefit to harm ratio of breast cancer screening.
So to sum this up, multi-omics diagnostics.
It's not diagnostics, but it's something that you use to predict the risk. Okay, so prediction, and then you can improve the benefit to harm ratio. So you improve the number needed to screen, and you decrease the number of screens that you do to harm someone.
So I'll correct myself. So it would be like multi-omics prevention tools.
Yes, yes.
Magda, any other areas of particular interest or hope for Europe in life science?
I'm looking. I have this fortunate position that I can look here on the screen, and I would repeat AI. And all what it implies. I mean, the whole digital area, which is about to be enhanced. From also as a representative of the Polish public sector, I am aware of all this, national strategies that are on their way in this sector. So I believe it's gonna thrive.
Okay, can we go to the next screen so we can see some other answers while we have Monica, your view on which subsector do you think?
It's really hard, because I think it's really a combination of all, because AI makes nothing without good data. Diagnostics are getting better, so that the quality of data is getting better. If I would have to choose one, I think also working with Africa specifically, I think it's digital health in general, where I see really the future access to everyone. And this is, we have good tools, we have good AI to support also the poor doctors to combine whatever we have now as data. But I think if the most impact, I think, and in the future, I assume what will really be worked on is access. What I feel is with digital health, the most important part that will be developed. And our countries, we have also rural areas, so it is not something that is only for African countries or low and middle income countries, but it's also for our countries really of relevance.
Across, yeah. If we can move so we can see a lot of AI, I would say biomanufacturing, but maybe I'm in the minority here. Any other comments? If you like to raise your hand, which subsector you think, if you haven't put it in, does everybody? No, AI, we think, oh, yeah, there you go, sorry. Yes.
Thank you, guys. One general comment, because we are talking about speeding up everyone, almost every session. However, when you want to speed up, you have to know where you want to go and what you want to achieve. And talking about subsidies, we talk a lot about research and development. And from digital companies, we have another problem. Even we have TERL, I would say 7, 8 projects, what else can do the company with commercialization and implementation? And this comes problem of European companies that no one wants to invest. And investors are outside, in China, in America, and they are buying for cheap money good companies who could grow in Europe. And we are losing huge potential. The same with doctors, from Poland going to sometimes to German, to, I don't know, to Great Britain, but it's not about doctors itself, it's about our thinking about the potential of the companies and how to implement those very fantastic sometimes tools to healthcare when there is no good opportunity for such a thing. Why? Because hospitals are not really wanting such tools, digital tools, because they are afraid of losing jobs, sometimes some kind of procedures, money. And we are invited to invite a lot of experiments, to invite digital health, but how to implement? This is the question. Are we really in Europe ready for implementation of such modern technologies? Because I can't see it for the last 5 years. And if anything will not change in Europe, we will be the losers in Europe, frankly speaking. And I'm sure you all know that, and it's up to you to change it. And this is the challenge for the whole Europe, not only to have talents, because we have talents. We have talents in Poland, in Germany, in France, in almost every country, but we are suffering the same thing, how to commercialize properly all these fantastic and innovative tools that we are inventing. And this is the problem. There is no pathway for such products. How about reimbursement? Where are the pilots allowing, to implement all these tools? No one is interested. We have HTA, but how about even if you have your own analysis, how to make a short track for implementation digital tools in any country? So this is the challenge, and without answering for these questions, we will be in the same place in 5 years' time. Thank you.
Some excellent comments there. Any thought? Yes?
Yeah, very wise comment. I think what I would answer is you have to work on all levels. We talked a lot about research and innovation, pushing it from bottom up or different levels. But very important is to talk also on high-level policy and important sharing evidence. And I think this is what the partnerships, I feel, do. These European partnerships, it is, there was a question also at the moment, I think you mentioned it, the question of strategies, is it fitting with my national strategies? And I think what these partnerships try to do and foster is strategic development for Europe with all countries involved so that they feel part of it. It's making it easier to have it as a national strategy also accepted. So, and this is then creating or supports to create evidence to show it is the right direction and to explain if we as countries are not doing something, the industry or somewhere else will do. And we are losing, I don't want to say it's not the right word, but I don't find another word, lose the control about our data, we lose the control about our technology, and we are losing our innovators. So I think this is, the communication needs to be on all levels, and this is a communication I think we try to push on the policy level to create an environment that is more supporting the implementation, the acceptance of new technologies, but also to make our policy makers aware about the need that they support, they create incentives, and they make people stay. So.
There.
Andrzej Pawluczuk. This year I participated one event in München in January. They enrolled 1,500 medtech, biotech innovator companies, around 150 business angels, venture funds, and I think there was anyone or no one from EU or other administration regulations. So I think that it was a great opportunity to hear different voices, to hear the problems through innovators and from the capital, etc. And of course, I heard some, let's say, not good things about European Union, because the other systems can take our innovation, our teams, as the panels said before. And the other thing was that I heard, let's say, that in Japan they could establish, let's say, some good regulation even less than 1 month. So how we can compete with this regulation? And one key word, I think, is the timing. Timing. When we see law, direction, certifications, funding, teams, etc. So, of course, the previous panel said many words, many sentences, but one key word was, let's say, timing, because I'm also involved in 2 startups, and I saw that we lose a lot of money for waiting some regulations or waiting some certifications. I'm also the person who obtains some regulatory, and I see the broad, let's say, view. So I think that this panel, this discussion are wonderful, and we should, let's say, send a message to the other, to key person in the European Union, in all nations. Thank you.
Thank you. I think this is all because we can go on for ages, I think, because it's obviously important topics. We're touching on important topics, but unfortunately we're running out of time. It's good that we're finishing on a positive note. We have taken all of this into considerations, and as I can see on the screen, there are very limited action plans right now, and as Magda said before, we have to take all of this input and all of these recommendations and actually putting it into action plans. So this is good food for thought for all of us. I can see that we have successful scaling or successful projects that have been scaled, and there are some excellent examples there, so thank you for sharing them. But just to sort of summarize what we all said, we have to support multidisciplinary teams. We have to, in order to have research into market, we have to support the industry when it comes to SMEs. We have to give incentives to big industry in order to stay in Europe and create new manufacturing and implement innovation. And we have to speak to the regulators and the policymakers in order to make the healthcare implementation and deployment a lot easier. So that's a lot of work that we all have to do. But we can discuss it further over coffee, I think, because everybody's ready for coffee. So I would like to please thank our panelists and thank you all for contributing, and we'll see you and discuss more over coffee. Thanks.
Thank you.
As you can see, we have to actually look at closing the gap and defining actions on how to do that. So when we first started discussing the panel with Thomas, we were wondering what gap specifically are we talking about, because there is the gap between innovators, research and industry. We spoke about that before. There is the gap amongst innovators and healthcare systems, the gap between healthcare systems across Europe, the gap between investors and the rest. So there is a lot of gaps, and of course the gaps that we want to discuss and refer to between now and 2050, the future, because this is the aim for the LifeScience4EU conference that we're here today. So we want to start with a few questions. Again, have your phones ready because we will be asking you, so keep your eyes on the screen while listening to the panelists. But I want to start with Monica, following on from the previous panel, to talk about a little bit about the gaps that are lying when we're talking specifically about personalized medicine. So the gaps between, we talked about how that's the future. We know that's the future. You're involved in pan-European consortia, so you've got an overview of what's happening around Europe. But when we're talking about deploying these solutions into the healthcare system, there is a huge gap there. And how do you think, what actions should we take to cover them, or what actions are we taking at the moment that you're aware of that we do that to close that gap?
Thanks. Of course, I do it a little bit again from the European Partnership for Personalized Medicine perspective, so I excuse for that. So specifically around personalized medicine, but it applies for everything, I would say. So you have identified the gaps. I don't know if, no, they are not on the screen. So like the question of bridging research to the market, we have discussed it. I think research is there, but we have to support the researcher to bring research towards innovation and market. I think here, for example, the partnership, I have mentioned it before. And if you have questions and during the pause, there's Kathleen Dont somewhere in the audience also. Maybe you can, I can see you, yeah. So if you have questions how, for example, we support the translation from research to innovation through the partnership with specific activities, I think it's a good moment to ask Kathleen because it's work package 3 that is specifically supporting like venture creation, venture capital, fast track, and venture creation. And also we try to have trainings to support researchers to better understand how to take next steps. When it specifically comes to the question between innovation and health systems, I think here the biggest problem is the diversity in Europe, the diversity of healthcare systems, even in one country. So you go to Spain or to Italy, even from one region to the other, the healthcare system is differently managed. I think even with your prescription, you can go from one region to the other to take your medication. So I think really here this is a big complexity. As I said before, we might not be able to harmonize these, but I think we can try to work on this together in trying to, try to find common processes and try to, to create Europe as a market, to make people aware that Europe is not an individual small markets, but a big market, and to try to help companies to come back. And I have the feeling that, for example, every country has innovation agencies also that are really supportive in this. So for example, Business Finland or Vinnova for Sweden, I have the feeling there are some countries are really pushing and supporting the innovators. I think what we need to do and to push, especially thinking internationally, for example, for Africa, where I have more contacts, or where I'm working with this country or continent I'm working a lot with, to stop reacting only on urgent issues. Innovation, they need sometimes time, so it is visions also for the future. Allowing innovation means to think about aspects like personalized medicine that are maybe not implemented tomorrow, but we have to make the baseline now, that in the future we know data are collected, that we are able to use them. So not only react on urgent problems, but to be ready for the future.
Yeah, but so not just reactive, but sort of be proactive as well, in a sense. Magdalena, when we're talking about a gap, before it was mentioned, or again and again it's stressed how important timing is. And we have, in Europe, there is through Horizon, there is funding tools specifically designed to actually bridge the gap between academia and industry, especially, for example, the IC Accelerator, which gives a push to mid TRLs to go into higher TRLs. Is that is timing, obviously timing is of an essence. Are these the best tools, do you think? And should we, this is something that was raised from yesterday, should we not only focus on the TRLs, but actually focus on the readiness level for these technologies to be updated by the forgot my English, by the healthcare systems as well, so then we can have direct access to the patients?
Okay, so, well, the quick answer is that, first of all, yes, all the instruments which are needed to, to face these challenges already exist. That's not only my personal diagnosis of the situation, it's the diagnosis, the outcome of the conference we had in the beginning of this very week in Warsaw. It happens that as NCBR, we have organized a huge conference on Monday and Tuesday of this week in Warsaw, also as a Polish presidency event. Entitled EU Innovation Journey 25, Closing the Innovation Gap. So it's a nice circumstance that I can recall this conference here. More than 500 people from all the Europe gathered to discuss how to close the double gap. You have quoted many gaps, in fact. We insisted on this general double gap between US, China, and EU, US, China, and widening countries, old member states. And the outcomes of this debate will be published in the form of a report before this summer. So I encourage you to take a look when it will be available. We will certainly advertise it on our website as NCBR and as NCP. But what I can already reveal is that indeed the outcome was that there is a variety of opportunities set up, first of all, under Horizon Europe. But they are difficult to be noticed sometimes and understood as a system. You recalled EIC accelerator, but of course there's not only EIC accelerator. There is a number of different grants under the third pillar of Horizon Europe, and not only. But I would like to particularly draw your attention to the new instrument which has been just set up, and we will have the first pilot call of this instrument published in June. In just a few weeks' time. It is an instrument called pre-accelerator, which is perfectly in the logic of the third pillar. So Pathfinder, accelerator, etc. It is called pre-accelerator. It will be implemented under the Widera, the widening portfolio. This instrument has been created in order to boost the innovation potential of early-stage deep tech startups in widening countries by enhancing their business, investor, and technology readiness. To secure funding from the EIC accelerator later on. It was designed for activities between TRL 4 and 6, because the 6 is the level of EIC accelerator. So this is indeed an instrument which will close this gap. And the funding under pre-accelerator, it's gonna be between 300 and 500,000 euro. So quite something for a startup. I don't know if it answers your question.
No, I think that's
Not
it does answer my question, and it creates more questions. But before you continue, I want to go to, because you just told us of a fantastic opportunity of actually closing the gap in the TRLs, and then we have to bring in the money from private money. So I'm just putting a hold on what you had to say. So when it comes to Robert, I know that you're an innovator in AI, and we can talk about that later on, but you're heading an angel investor group or network. So you are the only one who here on this panel representing private money. So how do we continue then from these fantastic actions that we are having? So we helping research being translated to commercialization or to be into the market. We have instruments from the EU in order to support these TRLs to come out to the market, and then you come into play. So how do you, from your view, what actions do we need to close the gap in order to have these startups or SMEs go to the next level and become bigger?
Thank you very much. Yes, indeed. I admit I was VC.
Not anymore?
A bit, but I have to be fully focused on the startup. It has a really great mission and a lot of effort, of course, to make it reality. As usually, that's the name of the game. But from the investor perspective, I did this angel investing, but also VC. I think the most difficult thing is to understand the probability of win in this healthcare sector, because on one hand we all know that there are many needs. On the other hand, we know that it's extremely challenging, and regulations on top of it. Yeah. So of course it's good that we have some public funding. We try to stimulate and so on. But sometimes in this there is this business aspect missing, and when these projects develop to some level and go to the private investors, they don't see this business value, if this will be useful or not. And the second extremely important factor is the chances for the adoption. Yeah, because it's to design some new technology innovation. It's even get all the certification approvals is one thing, but then rolling this and getting the scale is extremely difficult. And of course, we are competing with Americans, Chinese. They have large markets and it's much easier adoption. So you have, as an investor, private investor, you have to be very careful if you invest in startup with really nice innovation in Europe, and this startup is developing in Europe. If the competitors from the other larger geographies or easier to scale will not, be much faster, more efficient than the European ones, or you advise these startups to go. For example, in clean out, we consider going to maybe US, but also India seems to be a very interesting market for us. Large, massive adoption and less regulated. Yeah. So our investor says, why don't you go to India and skip Europe? Yeah.
If I may, Robert, we had a voice from the audience during the last session saying that in Europe we probably already have the supply of good projects. It's like, let's assume that. But we don't have the demand from the market and also from the funds, from the VC funds and generally the financing market. So that they don't provide enough support to do the things that you mentioned. So to act quickly, to go to the market, to compete with American or Chinese competitors. How would you address that?
the speed is everything in this industry, yeah? Because as you see how this technology is developing, like, I don't know, OpenAI. 1 year ago, who have heard about ChatGPT? Today, probably majority of us is using this on a daily basis, yeah? So this is extremely important. It's one thing. And another one, we had some discussions here at the coffee break about this mechanism are created in, you know, let's say in a safe way. Of course, public money has to be very carefully allocated and so on. But this means that it's extremely difficult to make some kind of crazy projects in Europe. But I think that in healthcare, in many areas, we have the potential, you know, to jump, not to do incremental changes, but if something is really bad, interoperability of data, yeah? We have some discussion about maybe let it stay as it is and put a layer of AI agents, not for patient treatment, it's too risky today, but for some analysis, for getting real-world evidence. We have not the best data, let's say, for the real-world evidence anyway, so if we do it with AI agents, we will have probably slightly better and on massive scale. And maybe it would be worth to do something like that. But this public mechanism, they're designed in a way that it's too difficult to propose such a project today, especially if you want to engage many stakeholders. And if you are closer to the system change on a system level, and the risk appetite is low, because as a company, as a CEO of the company, I wouldn't submit the project for the grant, promising that I will deliver something with these agents, because I don't know what will be the, after, I don't know, 8-9 months of evaluation, signing contract, and another year of implementation. In hospital, it takes time. I don't know what will be the technology there and what I can really deliver. I know that it makes sense and I will deliver something, but it's extremely difficult to promise and, you know, sign the contract with that. So these crazy projects in Europe, very ambitious and, you know, very looking forward, are extremely difficult to finance.
So you say that European attitude, I wouldn't say even regulations, but the European approach doesn't leave you the room for the failure.
Yes, exactly.
Maybe this is one of the most important things that we could address. So Europe is going for always, or almost always, for the safe way. So we are not that courageous, not that bold. And what I take your voice as an entrepreneur for more room for failure, for bigger risk appetite. I'm the CEO of the company that is also developing new technologies, actually cell and gene therapies. And if we could move fast, we can move faster, but we don't have money for that. And actually, you know, it's the paradox. So European companies are too slow, so we can't give them money. And we don't give them money, and they are too slow because they don't have the fuel to run faster.
It's not about the money. I don't want to dominate the discussion, but I think that there is increasing paradox between what we discuss on the system level and the real life. For example, data privacy is a big topic discussed from many angles and so on. But the reality is, I have a doctor at home, and I talk with many doctors, that if you have a look at their emails and WhatsApps, what kind of medical documentation patients are sharing to get, you know, some advice, second opinion, and this kind of stuff. I was shocked. Yeah. So this is happening. The same from recent publication from UK. 1/3 of the doctors they use ChatGPT. It's not approved. They shouldn't do, but they do use this in daily practice, diagnosis, treatment, and so on.
Even though it's 1 or 2 years old.
Yes, and ChatGPT knows a lot about health of Europeans. I guess.
So they are adapted quickly to the change.
So we better do something fast and do, let's say, first wave of regulation to, somehow balance. We have to do, to find the right balance between the speed of the innovation and the safety. But sometimes it's better to do this, step by step, because the nature of innovation is that if this is really good, bringing some result, it's adopted. In healthcare, of course, we prefer to have something approved and then used, but this is not the natural scheme how the innovation is being developed and used in daily life.
So we're moving really fast, and that means that we require people with new skills. So there is a lot of discussion about upskilling, reskilling in Europe across. We do know that we have a lot of talent when it comes to science. But Carolina, because you work with the biotech and the life sciences sector, and you know what are the profiles that the companies need. You probably have more knowledge of what the companies need from the companies themselves, I have a feeling. But where are we at? Is there a gap between the market needs and what we offer when it comes to capacity of the employees? Are we moving as fast in educating ourselves if we have to? Where are we at?
Yeah, so thank you for this question. So I've been dealing with biotech and medtech industry for the last 10 years. And I can tell you one thing. From the very beginning, I've heard that academia does not produce the graduates with the relevant skills. So I dug deeper, and I realized that it's not all about that. It's about the curricula that doesn't have right now the proper, let's say, adjustment to the company's need. And it's not about scientific skills, because you can do this during your, let's say, bachelor or master studies. I guess you're more proficient in several technical tools and scientific tools as well during your PhD studies. But it's also about, let's say, the understanding of the environment, understanding of the drug discovery and development processes, how long it takes, and what it's needed step by step. So to see, let's say, from the helicopter perspective on what you are doing on a daily basis and why you are doing this in your laboratory. The next thing I observe from the last decade is still regulatory, which is more complex after implementing, for example, MDR regulations for medical devices. When this regulation was introduced by the European Union, trust me, every med tech company was afraid of this, and the products stuck for 1 or 2 years. Why? Because the certification companies had a lot of contracts from the medtech companies who needed to be certified once more. So it makes sometimes frustrating to observe that we have really excellent companies, excellent academias as well, and something is wrong here. And but not just being so frustrated, I see also a lot of positive things, like thanks to different European programs, mobility programs, Erasmus, etc., Marie Curie, young scientists have excellent perspective to see the different research centers across Europe. And it makes them really valuable for the companies and for the other research centers. They do not have to leave Europe to do great science. Of course, US is always tempting. But if we care a little bit more about the infrastructure here, about scientific challenges, supporting VC systems, ecosystem, and so on. So I believe that, there is a huge, it's not a huge potential, it's a future for us. We need to do something with it.
Great.
I can tell you a lot of stories.
A lot of stories. You will tell us a lot of story, but now with the narrative of choosing Europe, and now we're actively, as Europe, attracting or wanting to bring back good talent that potentially has left. How is that, this is a question to all of you, how is that, are we ready to incorporate this new talent? And how do you think this is actually going to help us close the gap that we're talking in all aspects of life sciences? Anyone can start. I'm throwing it out to you, and I'm throwing it out to the audience after as well.
Yeah, so maybe I will start. As a company and myself, we have lots of experience with relocation. So we relocate scientists all the time, not only from Europe, but also from the US. And I've heard 2 or 3 days ago that European Union has a plan, and we should implement the programs to attract US-based scientists. We've done this for the last 10 years. We don't need big, let's say, big words. It's just all about the employer value proposition. What kind of infrastructure do you have in your company or research center? Does the research center speak English? And their administrative speak English? Does, let's say, the organization have in place other incentives like relocation support, which is needed? You need to rent an apartment. You need to know how to navigate in a new city, in a new country. You need to have all this information in place before you make a decision about moving. So, we collaborate with different organizations and research centers, so we needed to make this step by step, and we succeeded. It's not all about big words, but, dirty work.
And credits to you. I will make it a very sharp answer. Probably extremely difficult in Europe, but let's hope President Trump will help us a bit with that.
Yes, I would echo to what Karolina has just said, because as NCP organization, we organize every year, except for this year, which is a presidential one, a Horizon Europe Managers Academy. It became already a cycle, and it is a training cycle during a couple of weeks or even months. Every autumn, and there in this framework, I always have a presentation about building the recognition of a research institution in this highly competitive world. Of course, in order to build consortia, etc. And one thing that I always repeat is to advertise our institution appropriately on its website. It is such a trivial thing, which is very rarely well done. Usually you can find on such a website a lot of information. Of course, I'm talking about the Polish cases. A lot of information about the history of Dunn institution. Some eminent professors who died 100 years ago. But there is still not enough about the recent grants that have been gained from international programs or research teams, international teams that actually work in this institution. So sometimes such trivial details determine, the whole feedback that we receive from such a website. What I can add to that is that mobility issues are a part of Horizon Europe. There is a huge portfolio under Maria Skłodowska-Curie actions only devoted to mobility grants. And it's not anymore in my competencies. It has been transferred to National Agency for Academic Exchange in Poland. It is the only part of Horizon which is not in my organization. But still, you know that under this action, Choose Europe, two big instruments has been implemented under Horizon. First is a new instrument under Maria Skłodowska-Curie. And the second one is a very expensive type of funding under ERC grants too. It is very well known already because Ursula von der Leyen talked a lot about this one. Some very concrete new instruments are being set up in order to gain these foreign researchers and bring them to Europe. Of course, it's not very easy to do it in practice. In NAVA, together with these NCPs for Maria Skłodowska-Curie actions, there are also people who deal with Euraccess Poland. Euraccess, I don't know if you know, this is pan-European network of agencies which assist researchers to settle down in a chosen country. And of course, I know these people very well, and there is a number of anecdotes, what they do, what they have to do to really assist these people to overcome incredible barriers. Of course, their supposed task is to just, explain, advise, provide with some information. But their real task is very often to go to some institutions, to be a translator, a person who really fills in the forms. It's a huge challenge, in fact.
I think we've got an elephant in the room. So what I mean that there are several factors that could drive scientists and staff back from the other countries, but I think that we lack the one factor that probably has the most value, and it's money. What do you think? So is it like the Chinese gave their scientists so much money like they doubled or tripled the pay in the US? The US did the brain drain, and right now we are talking about helping somebody to overcome barriers, to relocate, to get around the city, and we are not talking about the money.
Yeah, in fact, these were the two words I was writing down for how to bring them back is potentially funding. But the question is, at what moment? So I think funding, I don't know when it was said, it's the speed up. The problem, I think you said it, the problem, it takes time sometimes. You submit a proposal and then a year after you start, and then maybe not because you need approvals.
Technology has changed.
Yeah, so I think the problem is the mini project funding. So when I was talking to innovators, they say what you see now is not what you have funded. It is a long time of funding sequence, and you see the result of many projects. So I think what I really feel is missing is constant funding or continuous funding. What I feel as a funding organization is quite different, because we are asked to make open competition, and we are seldom selecting one project and accompany it from the start until the end. So this is something where we, I think, have to really work on and what could help, but also I think listen more to those that are innovators, to understand what is really the need. So to have more co-creation processes, looking what we can really install afterwards, but at least listen and try to understand what are the needs, not to create an environment and then it's maybe not really what is needed. And I heard a lot, Emma is not here anymore, I think, but I didn't have the feeling, for example, that there was a problem of not wanting regulations that are existing, not understanding the needs of regulation, but having the openness also to listen to new things coming up, new innovation. And the regulation is not so fixed as we think. Also here is the funding, but also having the possibility to co-create regulation. And I think this is a changing, I have the feeling it's changing currently. And I have an example from Australia where Austria, where there is a diagnostic company and they developed, it's public-private, it's very interesting already how they are developed. So they are public funded, but they are private, so it's more accessible, but they have nevertheless the standards that are needed. So it's even how innovation looks like. And then they worked with the regulation together to make a clinical trial that would have been in such a way not possible before. But they explained, we go to somewhere where we don't know exactly how it's looking, what the patient is getting, but they developed it together with them. So I think having also, this is why I say funding and co-creation, I think these are two aspects that are really helping.
I got excited there because you said Australia, so I thought you would talk about my home country, but obviously it was just Austria, so it doesn't matter. But can I say, because we're talking about actions, and this is a session about actions, and I want to give an example as part of I'm splitting my time between CBER, so obviously a network of networks of clusters across Europe, and my other half role is a cluster manager in Greece. And an example of closing the gap in Greece, probably, I don't know how many of you know, but Greece has traditionally a big pharma industry. We've got a big pharmaceutical industry, mainly generics, but expanding, and a lot of production, a lot of money, a lot of talent into that. And one of a good action that has worked for the innovation in Greece is that the state has given incentives to big pharma to reinvest, I should say, some of the money that they get back from clawback from the products that are in the market into new innovation. And that has actually pushed, in a way, big pharma putting the skills and the expertise into new, so it could be new biologics, it could be new therapies, it could be new production ways, but new ways, so creating a bit of a hype. Do you have any other of these concrete actions that we can actually discuss or present, and this is to the audience as well, when we're talking about closing the gap? So Carolina, you spoke about trying to help people closing the gap in order to relocate. We're talking about the need of funding. We're talking about the new instruments, but do you have any concrete examples to tell us? Because it is a sharing session here and we want to take it further. So all of you, I would like a comment from all of you and the audience.
Yeah, thank you for this. I was thinking about one particular example because you know what I am dreaming of? I am dreaming about having more innovative companies generally in Europe and more big pharma setting down here R&D centers. So how to do this? Just give incentive, as you said. It's, trust me, the simple way, or if not the simplest way, to attract big investments and to bring more highly paid jobs. It's one thing about attracting people. So giving them really interesting challenges and highly paid jobs.
May I have a dream? A bit in the direction of what you said, but I think that giving some space to the innovation or on healthcare system level would be something that could help solve some problems, and also would be a good signal for innovators that things are possible. And there is a hope, European health data space, because we're talking a lot about R&D, clinical trials, AI, and so on. Data is a fundamental thing for that. Not only sharing the data, but also taking care about the quality, what was discussed before. But it's great that we have this European law, but there is many doubts, many question marks about the local implementation, and also from pharma, if this will be useful, shall we engage or not. So my dream would be to have at least one sandbox project with use cases in each country, and few on European. So it's a big dream. I know more than 30 sandboxes. Maybe you can organize this in some other way, but this is a great chance for Europe, for the innovation, but also solving many problems that we have in the healthcare system. So if we can somehow do it, and maybe allow also some of the very ambitious or maybe also crazy projects, that's what sandboxes are created for. I think this would be something that from my colleagues, also from the other startups, maybe also investors, would be something very needed.
Yeah, and if I may, so I would hear a voice from the VC standpoint of view, because we are discussing closing the gap. And one of the ideas, which I think is brilliantly implemented, for example, in the UK, where you have a vibrant biotech ecosystems and clusters as well, so is to give VCs incentives in terms of, let's say, giving them lower taxes, because they take a lot of risk to develop and invest the companies, especially in the early stages. So this is one of the idea which is already implemented elsewhere, right? So
it's also implemented in Poland for angel investors, also for VCs. But it's not as strong as everybody expected. Because you pay taxes after you have success. But you have to spend money up front, yeah. So this is something that is, of course, devil in the details. But I think that the more chances for the success of the project of the startup, this is the major factor if we can build and grow adoption of startups in Europe, yeah. This would be the main motivation for investors.
Mm-hmm. Monica, Magda, any concrete actions that you have seen in your practice or of closing the gap, or that you can think of that we can implement?
If I take it from the national perspective, I think it is really it was said before, but what I see in France is the creation of clusters, so bringing public-private clinic together, so research, the clinic, and the private sector. So there are different clusters developed around universities, for example, bringing the industry and biotech there. So startups helping the universities, or the universities are helping their researchers to have a more innovation setting. So I think this is really changing something. And then from the policy side, in France, what happened, for example, or what was, I think, like a year, in vitro diagnostics the testing is supported from the French ministry. So there is specific support given to new in vitro diagnostics. So this is, I think, sometimes a gap where there's no funding, where we get stuck. And sometimes just to test the tool. And I think here's really something where innovation is not getting blocked somewhere, but really tested in setting, and then we have the incentives, and then it's going to the next stage. So I really feel that helped.
If I may add, this is also, this is not financial, but this is also extremely difficult for startups. If you want to bring a big change, you need to have all the important stakeholders at the table. And for a small company like we have proposed this pan-European data framework with AI for clinical trials. And our experience is that even facilitating all the discussions between different partners, like big organizations, big pharma, the regulators, the hospitals, and so on, it's so time and resource consuming that for us it was extremely difficult to make this. So bottom up is slow, top down, very difficult for us.
So you are bringing, all of you, you are bringing a very important topics. And there is one gap that emerges from our discussions that was not named at the beginning. And I would say that this is a gap between planning and taking actions. So this is probably one of the biggest gap that we have in Europe. And we had the voting on the Mentimentor, and there was several proposals for most important factors that could bring us the best possible version of Europe in the future. And the answer that was most popular, the one that was biggest on the screen, was a speed of action. Do you agree to that? Magda was also trying to say something. I interrupted, sorry.
I was preparing for answering another question, in fact. And my answer would be then an invitation, because if the easiest way, in fact, to try to close the innovation gap is to come to NCBR, NCP, and because we exist in order to advise you, and we are there to help to build a research career, of course, via Horizon Europe grants, or to advise you on the life cycle of an idea, of course, also basing on Horizon Europe grants. Yeah, you can do it in many different ways. You can call us, you can write to us, we can meet on site, and we really will assist you in building your strategy. And if the question is now about the timing, well, it's another thing. It's we can't do anything about this. We can only we can speed up some processes by good assisting in your endeavors, but well, I don't think, let's say so, that all the barriers can be overcome. I mean, there are some factors that are really, that we can do nothing
that we can't do anything about it, you think? Are there any questions from the audience? Casimir is telling us that we should stop. Oh, continue but faster, because timing, okay, so we're speeding. There is a question up there, so yes. Oh, okay. So we have to do it really, really quickly now. Anton, you've got a comment. I'm coming all the way to you.
Sorry, it's a shameless sales pitch, because you asked earlier if there are actions that are trying to close the gap, and I'd like to pitch the Remedy for All project, which is a value chain for repurposing. The European Commission a couple of years ago recognized that repurposing of medicines, so a medicine used in one disease already, trying and testing in a new disease, which is very useful, particularly for the rare disease community, because there are very few therapeutic options. They recognize that there's a lot of activity, huge funding going into repurposing, but very little getting there. So there is the real gap. And so they put out a call to create a complete value chain. And so we've managed to build a value chain. It's not only the development value chain, but it's also the research funders and the policymakers all working together. So we have a group of more than 50 international research funders looking at how can we fund repurposing better? How can we fund repurposing longitudinally so that we say, well, this is interesting. If you fund that first bit, we'll take that second bit. Because what it's doing is it's helping the community understand what the challenges are in repurposing specifically. It's helping the academics who are coming to us, of which we had 190 projects come and ask us for help in the last year, understand what challenges they will face further downstream. So it's bringing everybody around a subject and helping make that seamless transition from phase to phase. So none of the fire and forget funding, but really fund and follow, and really looking from here to the patient and trying to go step by step. We need to work more closely together, both the research funder and the grants that they're funding, less transactional, more committed together.
Excellent example. There is another one over there. I'll come around. Sorry, Casimir, we've got another question.
Thank you so much. That's a good exercise. Thank you very much for the discussion. Really interesting. So we often pointing to the Commission and the Brussels-based authorities for maybe speeding up, doing things better, more effective, etc. But often, actually, at the member states level, things are slowed down, having different opinion, one have to say, focusing their sort of interest. So what do you think you could do at the member states level, for example, in Poland or somewhere else, to make it stronger?
Excellent question. There is a comment on this. I should have worn my running shoes.
Andrzej Pawluczuk. I think there's also one gap in senior directors with good networks with investors and with other key importance person in this sector. I mean, let's say the founders, let's say they have even 20, 30, 40, but sometimes senior director with 30 years with good relation in investors, key leaders, hospitals, directors, etc. So I think this is also like quite important gap when, for example, I compare the other companies in other sector, for example, Google.
Absolutely agree.
This is the HR gap. I think that we gathered very essential information during this session, and we will, of course, include it after the conference in the report. I think that we should thank our panelists for the great discussion and also to the audience for participating.
The question about member state was excellent, and we're going to try and continue answering it in the next session. Please don't go away. We have one last round. So we would like to invite our next speakers. Thomas?
My mic is dead. No, it works. Professor Bożena Kamicka-Kaczmarek, welcome. Albert King from NHS. Wendy Rayner, Marcin Kaucz, and Piotr Nowak. We invite you very warmly to the stage for our third round of planning actions.
Excellent. So welcome all. We will try and speed up this round. So I do apologize because Casimir is over there hand singling. But we are in the last round looking at how can we drive innovation forward. So all this weight falls onto your shoulders. So I just don't want to take any pressure away. But we have an excellent panel, and I think I want to start. Bożena, do I say it correctly? I do apologize. Thank you, because you have a very excellent multidisciplinary project that is going on at the moment with a very critical mission to solve a much needed pediatric need. And how do you manage to actually, because this is, you're driving innovation forward through collaboration. How hard it is, how easy, how fantastic. I'm not trying to put any a positive instrument, but I'm a pro for collaboration, but how do you manage it?
So I'm representing here HEAT-GLIO project, which is a Horizon Health Mission on Cancer project. And the idea came from the fact that we were already interested in tumor-host interactions. We were studying this for many years and in high-grade gliomas in adults, and we decided that the unmet need, in that sense that there is no cure for these pediatric tumors, unmet need is really to solve the issue in pediatric brain tumors. And we, at the same time, we had several very interesting mechanisms discovered which could be targeted and several molecules almost ready, along with carriers. Everything stems from my previous collaboration. So actually, I wrote the proposal together with my colleague from the lab, and we invited people with whom we already collaborated. So I must say that this was a crazy adventure to write this proposal just before Easter. A lot of work, but we were lucky to get this. And actually, fortunately, there was no too many reasons to implement the project, even if one of the partners was from Canada and another partner was from UK. And at that time, UK could not be financed by the committee. And I must say that project is going very well. We do a lot of activities. Last weekend, we actually presented the project at the picnic, scientific picnic at the National Stadium, and really hundreds of people and children came to see brain tumors in mice under microscope. Apparently, it was very funny. So we do quite a lot to show what we are doing to disseminate this idea into the public. And I had one idea, which is, I think, quite important, related to this project, because I have this impression that companies are working to put product on the market, which means that they are targeting the most common diseases. And many diseases, like the pediatric brain tumors or rare brain tumors or rare diseases, are left behind because companies do not expect to make big market and make big money. And here is the role for European Commission to select the area where indeed there is unmet need, but there is also no really environment, biotechnological or small company environment to address this kind of issues. And I believe that this is a very important role. Another, I'm thinking about continuation of this project because we really need to go further with the idea, and we are working really hard. You know, sometimes we are getting samples from the hospital Friday afternoon, and the first processing takes 12 hours, and you have to come next day. So the team is working sometimes overnight and during the weekend, because everybody wants to go further. We really have molecules which are attractive, tested in many aspects, so we want to go further. And with this issue, with this aspect, there is an issue, because someone was talking about consistency of funding. So in US, when you have a very well-going grant, it's much easier to get money for continuation. In Europe, after 3 years, we will be looking urgently for money to continue with the project, and we will be, you know, competing with people who are starting with new ideas. So I would like to consider authorities about the idea of consistency of funding, evaluation, but also consistency of funding, because 3 years with ambitious project with animal models is just not enough to get to the phase which is important. And what I found really difficult maybe this is the Polish issue. I'm representing academia, and we don't have really contact with the companies. For example, we have right now excellent molecules tested in animal models. We are ready to go, and I have experience with biotech companies because sometimes our interests overlap and we can work together. But when I'm coming with my molecules tested in preclinical studies, it's really hard to find someone who will go along with me. And in NCBR, which is great agency, gives a lot of money, it's for academics, it's very hard to get funding, even if before there were some streams of funding which allowed. And for example, if biotech company are applying, quite often they subcontract academics because of the know-how, expertise, and availability of equipment. So why not to open this a bit more for people from academia who are interested in applied studies? I had very good funding from National Research Center, but they will not found translational studies.
This is where clusters can help. So this is the power of clusters, but I'm preaching to my own. But moving to Albert and Wendy, you're running a study at the moment where you're connecting different countries with different ecosystems and because you're looking at data fragmentation and into healthcare supply chains. I know that Greece is part of that, so we can specifically talk about that over lunch and the challenges you probably have to face, and I do apologize, but tell us, how do you create and fostering that collaboration, how important it is?
I think probably if I start, it's probably worth just clarifying the different roles between Albert and myself. So I work for the Scottish Government and I head up our circular economy programme within the healthcare sector. And Albert is our Chief Data Officer at NHS Scotland. So we're coming at this from different approaches. And I think bringing people on board is identifying a common problem or a common risk, essentially, between the different national groups. Now, we're working with a number of clusters. Now, we're all buying medical devices, and we're really focusing on medical devices from a global pool, from a global supply chain. And we're identifying that there are significant resilience risks associated with that supply chain. So it doesn't matter if I'm in Denmark or Greece or Poland, it is exactly the same risks. Now, it's probably worth just highlighting what some of those are, because that gives a little bit of perspective. So we know that there's a risk in terms of resilient supply. From data that we have, and we have quite comprehensive data, we know that around about 50% of all the medical devices we use are actually single use. We know that of those, 30% of those have had supply chain disruption in the last 12 to 18 months. And one of the main causes for that supply chain disruption is associated with material scarcity. And so the last 2 days have been really interesting, but they've been focusing on business models about bringing more to market. And I always describe it as a little bit of a train along a track. And what we're trying to do is jump on that train and hope that we're all going in the same direction. The reality is that we're going to run out of track very, very quickly. And it doesn't matter where we are in Europe or where we are in the world. We're facing exactly the same problems in terms of raw material scarcity, disruptions from geopolitical changes in terms of getting things to market. With that brings financial insecurity and price volatility of those products. So our focus really has been, how do we address those common problems? How do we identify them? And then how do we put in solutions which will work irrespective of the organization of healthcare systems?
So I should probably start by saying, as Chief Data Officer for NHS Scotland, how awesome it is to be in a space where what I've heard today is that data is at the heart of solving so many of the problems that we face. So that's a big win for me today. And just building on what Wendy was explaining about the challenge that we face and that we want to solve using data, when Wendy and I looked at this challenge, at this problem, one of the things we noticed was that people were spending a lot of time really laboriously trying to gather together the data that they need to answer those types of questions and to model those types of supply chains and make better decisions and predict the impact of policy interventions or supply shocks. And that simply isn't scalable, right? And that's partly because our supply chains are global and they're really, really complex, and we don't describe those data in common ways. But the thing is, we also know that that data already exists. It's out there. We're just really not very good at getting it together. We create a lot of friction for our supply chain. So we really wanted to challenge innovators in academia and in industry to try and solve that problem. And so that was our hypothesis, and we've actually tested it. So with an initiative we have in Scotland called CivTech, it's been going for about 10 years. We put that challenge out there to innovators across industry and academia. We wanted to fail fast and see if there is something to this. And we've actually managed to show that there probably is something in there. So we've worked with 2 or 3 companies from our supply chain and with some really innovative companies to bring that data together and to allow us to model some of these solutions. And so, yeah, tackling that global complexity through bringing together some innovation, taking a bit of a risk, and actually collaborating and creating value for everybody through that supply chain, I think is key to unlocking the value and actually driving that collaboration and getting to some of the solutions that we need. And what we're really excited about as part of the ReHeal program, as you explained, is that we think that we can work with an even bigger pool of collaborators together to create fundamentally a data asset that's going to unlock lots of benefit for everybody across the whole supply chain and across the whole healthcare ecosystem in order to address the challenges that Wendy explained so well.
So there is a whole other aspect and a whole other gap that we didn't identify in the previous panel. But I want to ask Marcin if procurement can be a solution. So we have new development, new technology. We have a healthy and stable supply chain, let's say, globally. Can we incorporate these solutions into healthcare through better procurement systems or easier procurement systems that we can implement, perhaps?
Okay. I was promised to be able to show one picture. I wonder whether...
And
thank you.
So I do apologize.
Okay. So I would like the Polish audience to look for Sucha Beskidzka Hospital. Foreigners tried not to do that. This is Polish, the second most difficult language in the world. So just Polish people look for Sucha Beskidzka Hospital and then go to graphics. Just not the website, but the graphics. Because you'll see the results, and that was my point of showing the picture. I assume that you know the saying, you are what you eat. And I believe that you probably agree with that. And you are what you buy. So if a unit, hospital, and other organization starts buying things, they are actually building the organization. Procurement is ununderstood, yeah, I don't know whether that's such a word like this, but it's not understood key element of building strategy, a building organization. If you don't know what you're buying, if you're buying just some crap, then don't be surprised that you have problems in the organization. What I do for the last 16 years is doing something that's called innovative public procurement. And innovative public procurement is trying to make a switch, which is pretty difficult to do, from buying what they want to sell you into telling them what you want. So you are voicing out your need. I want that. In the case of Sucha Beskidzka that I wanted to refer to, we define our need as a thermal comfort for patients and personnel. We didn't say we want to have air conditioning. We didn't say we want something else. We just want to have comfort. And we went through the quite intensive process of technical dialogue in which we were meeting different organizations, different suppliers, and try to understand what actually we should buy to fulfill our need. And we chose something that you will see on that picture, which is photovoltaic, sunscreens that are above the windows. So then sun doesn't come to the room, so it doesn't heat it that much. You already used the word photovoltaic. So you will see on this picture the huge rows of photovoltaic installation just above the windows, which means that we were able to lower the temperature substantially. We are not happy, but substantially. And on the top of that, we also had some 5% of the electricity being produced by sun. This project was done in 2015 with the developing technologies. I believe that at the moment, if we install it again, we will get something like 12% of the energy from something that is not being used. Because if you have a southern facade, there's nothing there. You're not going to do anything with that. When you put this photovoltaic installation, you get extra space when you can put quite a lot of systems to make it really working. So that's about innovative procurement. Just try to get out of the way that you usually do things, you do things, into understanding what you need and then voicing it out. If you don't say that, they wouldn't know that you want it. So you have to tell them you want it, so they can work for you and solve the problem.
Mm-hmm. So the message is to matching the need or the something that is delivered, the solution to the needs.
Yeah, because
big message.
Yes, if you go to the supermarket, you just go something that's on the shelf. You just buy it because it's there. But if this is something you really want, no, this is something that's available. So this is about saying, hello, the world, I want that, I'll pay for that. And then some people will come and tell you that they can do that in a way that is more appropriate to what you really need.
Okay. And Piotr, is this your experience in digital transformation into healthcare? Is that the same model? How do we do it? Do we go to the innovators? Do the innovators have to come to us? How have you, in your experience, how has that been working? What's the best model?
My answer is on the different levels of cooperation, because we are experienced in, for example, public administration e-services, and what I must say, we have here good examples of public-private cooperation and successful implementation of innovation. We can perceive, for example, e-patient platforms in Poland as such. This cooperation between IT developers and public institutions and ministries. And there's many more such experiences and examples we can find. Very effective way from our point of view is also using ecosystems like EAT Health, or we also using others, but many voices here were about TRL level and increasing it to the market level. And I believe that EIT is helping in that way. This is very strong ecosystem of academia, startups, and also investors and big companies. So we are using it, and this is also my experience. And we are also working with small companies or with single ones, and here, the crucial thing is proper business model and proper model of commercialization. And this is also mentioned here during the conversation, but yes, this is not very obvious thing to find a proper company to cooperate when we are a research institution like our institute. And it's not very easy task to use the proper business model and value proposition for that. So yes.
Any questions from the audience? Any comments? Any examples from your ecosystems on any of the topics that we have been discussing? No, I think everybody's trying to go to lunch. But I have one last question for all. Oh, no, Casimir, you do, yes. You're going to tell us to be quick. No, tell us. He doesn't want to. Okay. So one last question is, we have asked you, do your institutions have the mechanisms to quickly initiate pilot deployments of innovation? And we have some excellent examples. Oh, well, and some saying not really. No, not yet. Okay, but some other excellent examples. But the last question for this session is, if you could, it's the question that we had before and we have been asking to everyone, if you could imagine what life sciences or healthcare or health innovation is by 2050, what would that be?
2050.
2050, is that what I said? 2050?
Yeah.
That's what I said. So what would it be in you know, in an ideal world? What we should be striving towards?
You're looking for a short answer, I'm guessing. Local and resilient.
And resilience, yes?
So I would love to see more innovation happening in the healthcare system. I'm going to say that, aren't I, because I'm part of the healthcare system, but I think often we see innovation or research as being something that happens at a bit of a distance and that then we somehow need to kind of adopt into our systems. And that takes a long, long time, right? For a whole range of reasons. And part of it's to do with the way we actually build our data assets and our digital infrastructures. So let's do more of that inside the system, and then we'll get more rapid adoption and better impact. And let's do better than 2050 as well. Let's do it by 2030. Come on, let's challenge ourselves.
Okay, that's a big challenge.
It's in 5 years.
I believe in personalized medicine. We are not yet that because we still don't have good methods to compile all the data about the patients or to get enough data about the patients, but we are not far from there. And if you employ AI to analyze the data, we will have AI Dr. House who will provide you the answer, even if it is not obvious for everybody who studied medicine. So I believe that this would be the biggest challenge, to somehow harmonize all the patients' data and analyze this in the way to provide the perfect diagnosis and look for the best drug for the issue.
Mm-hmm.
So I could give the opposite example, exactly opposite. I collaborate with Jagiellonian Center for Technology Transfer, and their major problem is that they don't have projects to support. So if you complain about that you have no support, just try to either ask for that or just to create the system like the Jagiellonian University, where it's a special organization that helps scientists to commercialize what they started doing. And I think that that's one of the answers. So, and it actually works with quite many of Polish universities. That there's somebody who has knowledge about patent, for instance, or all these legal cases or business cases that could help those who want to really develop and become commercialized. I'm not saying this is easy. If it was easy, we would do it like ages ago. Nothing is easy. Life is not easy.
And I think that it will be prevention of diseases, and use of personalized medicine will help it with this aim. And in such long perspective, it will be easy to analyze and to see consequences of act by day, and that's why we will be more successful in helping people.
Mm-hmm. So local and resilient, and obviously making the innovation internally to the healthcare setting, that's what I get, and supporting. And this is the excellent role, and this is the mission of Klaster. So I'm looking at you, Casimir, and myself, and all the other clusters that are here. So thank you so much for a great panel. It has been fantastic. Please give a round of applause to everyone.
Thank you.
A lot of insights. We will be collecting all this information, and then we will have some closing remarks. But there will be a follow-up on the some of the topics that we have been discussing during the day and the infographics. So thank you so much, and we hope to see you again.